Sadie Rice, a former royal maid, who is now 35, has finally broken her silence on Prince William, and what she's revealed is shockingly bad. The woman who once walked the hallowed halls of the Cambridge residence has stepped forward with a story that's causing a lot of talk in the royal family. After 2 years of serving the future king and his family, this experienced royal servant has exposed the demanding reality behind palace doors. What pushed this loyal professional to leave one of Britain's most prestigious positions? The answer reveals a side of royal life the palace would prefer to keep private. Behind palace doors, working for royalty isn't what fairy tales would have us believe. There are no magical helpers or easy fixes. Instead, there are constant demands, high expectations, and a job that slowly takes over your life. This difficult truth became too much for Sadie, and eventually, she had to walk away. The breaking point. Sadie's a hard worker, but the job's demands got too much, even for her, revealed an insider close to the royal household. This wasn't just about dusting a few extra rooms or washing a few more dishes. It was about losing all sense of personal space and time where work completely took over her life. The first signs appeared slowly. Extra hours here, additional responsibilities there. What began as occasional requests soon transformed into constant expectations. The workload at Anmer Hall was already substantial. Grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, and laundry for a 10-bedroom estate isn't light work by any measure. But then came the request for more time at Kensington Palace as the family prepared for their permanent move to London. They wanted her to spend more time at Kensington Palace, and her work was increasing all the time, continued the source. The request might sound simple enough, but it meant completely reshaping her life around the royal family's needs. More time at Kensington Palace meant less time for herself, her own needs, her relationships, and her life. For a while, Sadie tried to make it work. She adjusted her schedule, stretched her hours, and pushed herself beyond what most would consider reasonable. But there comes a point where even the most dedicated employee needs to draw a line. For Sadie Rice, that moment finally arrived after 2 years of service. She wasn't having a normal life outside work, the insider explained with a note of sympathy. This statement speaks volumes about what was happening behind closed doors. Not having a normal life is a simple phrase that contains countless missed birthday celebrations, canceled dates, postponed dreams, and abandoned personal time. Royal expectations. What exactly does a royal household demand from its staff? The question seems simple, but the truth is much more complicated and goes far beyond a typical employer-employee relationship. When you work for the royals, you don't just serve them. You surrender parts of your life to them. For Sadie, the job description never mentioned that her personal time would slowly disappear. It never stated that the boundaries between work hours and personal hours would blur until they became almost non-existent. It certainly never indicated that her entire existence would eventually orbit around the needs of Prince William and Duchess Catherine. The standard duties were challenging enough. Grocery shopping meant selecting the perfect ingredients for meals that would be served to future monarchs. Cooking requires knowledge of dietary preferences, potential allergies, and royal tastes. Cleaning wasn't just about maintaining hygiene, but preserving historical artifacts and valuable. Choosing Sadie as the right people aren't easy to find, the source added, highlighting just how valuable she had been to the royal household. This wasn't just flattery. It was recognition of a truth known within royal circles, finding staff who combine competence with discretion, who understand the delicate balance of serving royalty while maintaining appropriate boundaries, is extraordinarily difficult. According to reports, Prince George and Princess Charlotte were sad about her leaving. Children notice and remember the adults who treat them with care and kindness. The fact that Sadie made such a strong impression on them shows not just how good she was at her job, but also the kind of person she is. Life in service. What does it really mean to serve royalty? From the outside, we imagine a world of glamour and privilege, of brushing shoulders with the elite and witnessing history in the making. The reality, as Sadie discovered, is far more complex and demanding. A typical day in Sadie's life begins before the royal family awoke and ends long after they retire. Her mornings might start with preparing breakfast, ensuring the kitchen was stocked with fresh ingredients, and planning meals for the day. Then came the cleaning. Not the quick once-over that most of us give our homes, but the meticulous attention to detail that royal residences require. Laundry wasn't simply tossing clothes into a washing machine. It involved careful sorting, specific temperature settings for different fabrics, and proper hanging and pressing of garments worth thousands of pounds. Grocery shopping meant selecting only the finest produce, the freshest meats, and the most perfect ingredients, all while maintaining absolute discretion about the royal family's preferences and habits. Between these tasks came the unexpected requests, the last-minute changes, and the special preparations for guests or events. Each demand required immediate attention, regardless of whatever task she might already have been doing. All of this had to be done with perfect composure, never showing stress or fatigue, never allowing personal problems to affect her work. The royal family didn't just employ Sadie's skills. They employed her emotional labor as well, her ability to remain calm, pleasant, and efficient, regardless of circumstance. "I need to make this public," Sadie reportedly told a close friend after leaving her position. "People need to understand what it's really like." Her words reveal a desire not for revenge or attention, but for honesty about an institution often shrouded in mystery and glamour. The physical demands of the job were matched only by the psychological ones. Maintaining confidentiality meant carrying the weight of royal secrets without relief. Discretion required constant vigilance about what she said and to whom. Loyalty demanded putting the royal family's needs before her own. The invisible balancing act. The royal household runs like a perfectly tuned machine, steady, exact, and powered by countless unseen efforts. These constant mental calculations create an invisible burden that weighs heavier than any physical task. What makes Sadie's story particularly poignant is that by all accounts, Prince William and Duchess Catherine were kind employers who never intentionally overworked their staff. The problem wasn't malice, but a system designed around absolute availability, a system that treats human needs as secondary to royal requirements. When Sadie finally drew her line in the sand at age 35, she wasn't just addressing her own situation. She was highlighting a fundamental question that royal households have yet to fully answer. How can centuries-old traditions of service adapt to modern understandings of work-life balance without compromising the function of monarchy itself? The royal response. When news of Sadie's resignation broke, Kensington Palace maintained its characteristic silence on matters concerning staff. "We cannot comment on the Duke and Duchess's private staff," said a spokesperson when approached by the press. This standard response reveals much about how the royal family views such matters, as private concerns rather than public interest. Behind the scenes, however, the reaction was likely quite different. Losing a trusted member of staff isn't just a staffing issue, it's a disruption to the carefully structured royal residence. Replacements must be vetted, security clearances obtained, training provided. New staff must learn the specific preferences and routines of the family they serve, knowledge that takes months to acquire and years to perfect. For Prince William and Duchess Catherine, Sadie's departure came at a particularly inconvenient time as they prepared for their permanent move to Kensington Palace. Having a household staff familiar with family routines and preferences is invaluable during such transitions. Losing Sadie meant losing not just her skills, but her institutional knowledge, her understanding of how the Cambridge household functions. This wasn't the couple's first staffing change in 2023. Rebecca Deacon, who had served as Duchess Catherine's private secretary for 5 years, had stepped down just months earlier. Two significant departures in such close succession suggest something brewing beneath the surface of royal employment, perhaps a reevaluation of work-life balance or changing expectations as the Cambridge family's role continues to evolve. While the palace may not have commented publicly, the loss was surely felt. Trusted staff are the backbone of royal operations, the invisible hands that allow public figures to perform their duties seamlessly. Their value often becomes most apparent only in their absence. The industry secret. Sadie's story isn't just about one housekeeper's experience with one royal couple. It offers a rare glimpse into the deeper, often unspoken reality of serving the elite. Her resignation highlights a broader imbalance, the uneven power dynamic that exists in high-profile households. Could boundaries be established that allowed for both excellent service and personal fulfillment? Was it possible to serve royalty without surrendering one's own life in the process? These questions weren't just theoretical. They reflected a generational shift in attitudes toward work and life. Younger staff members entering royal service brought with them modern expectations about employment rights, work-life balance, and personal boundaries. They admired tradition but questioned practices that seemed rooted more in hierarchy than necessity. This shift presented a challenge for the royal family. Their daily lives depend on dedicated staff willing to go above and beyond normal employment expectations. Yet attracting and retaining quality personnel requires acknowledging changing workforce attitudes. It's a delicate balance, maintaining the standards and traditions that define royal service while adapting to contemporary employment practices. Prince William and Duchess Catherine, as younger royals with children of their own, arguably understood this tension better than most. They represent a bridge between traditional royal values and modern sensibilities. Yet Sadie's departure suggests that even they struggled to create working conditions that respected staff needs while meeting their own requirements. Though brief, the media coverage of Sadie's resignation opened a rare window into the typically private world of royal employment. For the public, it provided a reminder that behind the ceremony and splendor of royal life are ordinary people doing extraordinary work, often at considerable personal cost. Life after service. At 35, Sadie Rice found herself at a crossroads that few could experience, leaving behind a world of palaces and princes to return to ordinary life. What happens when you step away from service to one of the most famous families in the world? For Sadie, the transition came with both challenges and unexpected freedoms. After years of rigid schedules dictated by royal needs, she suddenly faced days that were hers to shape. After maintaining strict confidentiality about every aspect of her work, she could speak more openly about her daily life. After subordinating her needs to those of the Cambridge family, she could finally prioritize herself. Initial reports suggested that Sadie took time to relax after leaving her position, focusing on reconnecting with family and friends who had taken a back seat during her royal employment. The experience and references gained from working in such prestigious households meant she wasn't short of employment opportunities, but she chose to be deliberate about her next steps. While Sadie maintained appropriate discretion about specific details of the Cambridge household, her decision to break her silence about the general working conditions sent an important message. By speaking through friends to trusted sources, she highlighted the unsustainable expectations placed on royal staff without betraying the family's privacy. Sadie's resignation was never about disliking the Duke and Duchess, clarified one source close to the former